Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
With Tech to the VO stars. George Wittam, founder of Source Elements. Robert Marshall, international audio engineer. Darren Robbo Robertson. And global voice. Andrew Peters. Thanks to Tribooth. Austrian audio. Making passion heard. Source Elements. George the Tech Wittam. And Robbo and AP's international demos. To find out more about us, check theproaudiosuite.com.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Now, this week I saw on a very large voiceover forum a question about someone wanted to buy a microphone and wanted to get a microphone that suited their voice. And another conversation happened when I was doing a session with Adrenaline in Vegas, and we talked about U87s and 416s, and everybody expects you to have that because that's the industry standard. But the point was that if I had a U87 and Adrenaline's got a U87, they would sound completely different because they're in different environments.
This is where things get really interesting, right? What is it that makes a mic sound the way it sounds, right? There's a lot of factors, right? There's the capsule, there's the electronics, there's other factors, there's the actual designer. A mic is tuned to sound a certain way. It's tuned by the manufacturer, it's tuned by the designer. They make an aesthetic judgment, right, of how that mic should sound. How a mic should sound to that person is a unique, subjective thing. That's why vintage microphones especially are so varied. And this is why I think modern condenser mics are so non-varied. They're all way more like each other because the commonalities are so... They're just table stakes now of what a modern condenser mic sounds like. And that could be because of a couple mics, could be because of a 416, could be because of a U87, but whatever it is, there are sounds of mics, there are voices of mics that are now considered like a reference point. And everything that's different is now just considered a vintage sound or, a different sound. So there are variations.
Isn't the word colored?
There's coloration.
Exactly.
The thing that's funny, though, is we don't want a non-colored mic, right? If we wanted a non-colored mic, we would be using dead flat Omni mics or something, right? But we all kind of agree that's not exactly what we want the sound of our voices to sound like either, right?
We want the boost and the hyper reality thing. And a mic can bring that focus, but I kind of think the difference isn't so much the right mic for the right voice. I think much more that it's the right mic for the right situation.
Yeah. And the situation, the space, the context.
The space, the space for you to deal with the microphone if you're traveling, your whole situation and all the appropriate stuff.
The background noise. Is it going to be an outdoor setting? Is it going to be
like one mic sound better than the other? But if this one's better at cutting out noise or focusing better in a tight booth, then this one, the pros outweigh the cons. Yeah. And then every now and then you get that weird thing that happens where something like the 416, the 416, where something like the 416, was designed to reject noise and be a mic for a specific purpose, which might have some compromises. And then over time, people find that they actually like the compromises for the effect. And there we come back to the word color and the color and the sound that it has. And so you have something like the 416 that has that cut, which is really a byproduct, a way of its initial design to reject noise and record just the voice.
Yeah.
And made it a less ideal microphone in a true I'm flat kind of respect and more here I am for the situation.
Yeah. It's not a quote unquote musical mic. It's a utility mic that makes voice rise above or cut that Robert mentioned. That is what makes that mic character work for many voiceover scenarios, but maybe isn't the best mic for a voiceover where it's not a voiceover, it's an audiobook. There is no music. Yeah. There are no effects. It's a voice in a vacuum that isn't, you don't necessarily want a mic that cuts. So it is a little bit of that. There's also mics that I will hear on a voiceover's voice that I don't just subjectively, I don't like the way they sound. I don't like the choices of how that mic is voiced. I don't like the EQ. Again, sometimes they call it a vintage sound, right? And some of those quote-unquote vintage sounding mics, to me, are subjectively not what I would want. Will they work? Yeah. Can I EQ it later? Sure. And we've said it on the show before, if the flatter the mic is, the better you can EQ it. Right? The better you can get the sound you want.
You're not fighting someone else's EQ. The way I think of it, if someone gave you a nice flat piece of metal and basically said, "Give me a curve," you'd have a pretty easy time doing it because you'd have one thing to create. If someone gave you a big curved up piece of metal and said, "Give me a smooth curve," you'd have trouble making a smooth curve out of it because the thing's already curvy in a different way.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. If that metal had several little bumps and bends in it, and they said, "Make it a perfect smooth curve," what a pain.
Yeah.
How much work you have to put into that thing to get that piece to conform,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The science of it is it's not a science. It's completely subjective. You can chase the perfect mic for your entire life. Andrew?
Yes, you can.
Is that a problem?
I think you can play to certain mics and use them in different ways, and it's not like Bob Dylan with harmonicas, but, you could, if you're doing a certain type of read, really, you can get more out of a 41.6 than some other mic that's not doesn't have that same proximity and that focus or something. At the same time, if you're going for a really smooth, pillowy kind of thing, maybe an 87, but probably not a 41.6.
But I wonder if you could only have one mic to do everything, would it be a 41.6?
OC818.
An OC818. And then you can do everything. But it's funny, this discussion the other day, though, where it said if you actually put in your, the gear you have in your home studio and you had 41.6, U87, Avalon, everyone would go, "Oh, yeah, well, they're professional. They've got all the right gear."
Right.
But it might be all the wrong gear because it might not work in their situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
I would say, if it's really a valuable pursuit for you, it's just something you've always wanted to do. Maybe you've been in this for 10 plus years. It might be worth it for you to invest in a modeling mic, because now you get to have the fun, the pleasure, the pain, whatever, of trying out a humongous variety of microphones and trying them. Now, here's the thing. Do not record these models of mics to impress yourself. That you will end up picking the sparkliest, shiniest, prettiest sounding microphone. I'm guaranteeing you that. And that is not necessarily what you want. So you may want to do that exercise and then send that recording to somebody else, a trusted producer, engineer. George the Tech offers Mic Check. We will evaluate and rank a whole bunch of mic samples, and we will tell you subjectively, or I would say subjectively, what is the best of the top, maybe the top 3 for your voice, ranked from top best to worst. So that's what you want to have. Don't try to impress yourself unless you are a producer and you spend your days producing and you've heard a lot of voiceovers in a lot of different contexts. I would not try to evaluate yourself. I think that's a tricky spot to get yourself into.
Well, interestingly, out of the choice I did for a session the other day, I offered the OC818 through the Neve, and I offered the 41.6 through a Grace. And they went with the 416 through the Grace and loved it.
What was the and this was an industrial?
It was actually a training industrial, film, medical thing.
Did you read it all in a vacuum, or did you hear the music that they were going to put behind it?
No, I didn't hear it. It was all in the vacuum. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can see why. It's funny because after you get a long form thing, in a way, you probably end up wanting the smoother mic after a while.
It certainly has something, and depending on the voice, it certainly brings things out in a voice.
Yeah.
That could be quite appealing.
Yeah, it's also the combination. I don't know if you spent the extra energy to do the other combination.
Or the neve and a little bit of too many variables. Yeah, it's
But
true.
a neve is going to be, a neve is a colored preamp, a grace is a uncolored preamp. So that combination of color and uncolor could be a pro and a con, depending on what you're doing too. So you may have found out that the 41.6 neve was the best combination. So it's hard to say when you're changing multiple variables. It's just a matter of luck and opinion. You know, they're going to say that you gave me two choices. I picked choice B. In that case was what really worked out well. So, I think some people find the coupling of a 41.6 and a neve-like preamp is a good combo.
I think it was the 41.6. It was the 41.6 with the Grace, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it sounds great. I mean, it must admit, it does actually sound really, really good.
Sure.
It's like clean. It's clean and just on a dime. I imagine it'd be pretty similar to like a John Hardy and a 41.6, which is
or a Millennia. Yeah,
or Millennia. Yeah,
Millennia especially.
But it's got that. There's something about it that the combination of the 41.6 and the Grace just has this kind of, and it's a really weird term, but kind of a 3D thing going on. If that makes any sense.
That is one of those audio terms. It's funny.
Yeah, it is a funny audio term. I don't know how to describe things as 3D yet, but I'm working on it.
They pop out. They pop out at you.
So anyway, the conclusion is there isn't one.
I know.
Really?
You're not going to like our answer.
The right mic for the voice in the right situation, in the right time, in the right place.
Yeah, I think the bottom line, there is no right mic for the voice, because the voice is not in a vacuum. It's working in a context of a space and of a production. A script, a style. Yeah.
Righto, on that note.
All right.
Anyone want to buy some mics? I've got plenty.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth and Austrian Audio, recorded using Source Connect, edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging, with tech support from George the Tech Wittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.